morning. Electric cars, they make life easier, they're cheaper to run, they're more efficient and more comfortable. There's so many advantages over their ICE equivalents that sometimes, as an owner, for my part, for 3.5 years, I find it's easy to get wrapped up in that and forget all those simple things, all those simple questions that I had before and just after I bought this car. Questions that, for the some part of it, to me, sometimes just felt a little bit silly, felt like I should really know them. And other times I just had no idea, so I searched the internet. Well, we all know what the internet's like. It can be very, very useful, but it can also just blow your mind with so much conflicting information that you end up coming away more confused than you started with. So I wanted to put together a basic video answering those simple questions to give you the information and the confidence to go forward and at least try, if not end up buying an electric car. I wanted to cover the main topics, so anything from charging, the leads that you need, the apps, the cards that you need, the home charger, battery degradation, the range, all those sort of things that you just, as I said before, if you go on the internet, it's just a minefield of answers. So what I thought I'd do is break it down to 3 separate videos, but I want this to evolve. So I want this to become almost like a two-way conversation in the comment section. So if there's things that I haven't spoken about and you want to know, then we can perhaps do a 4th video to mop those things up. Or this series can just keep continuing until we've answered all those questions that you need to know. So please, this is a two-way thing. Pop some things in the comments, let me know what you need to know, and we'll answer those at various points during the videos. But for today's video, what I want to do is look at the biggest topic, the thing that everybody asks the most questions about, and that is, how do you charge these things up? Where do you go? What do you need? How does it work? How long does it take? All those answers I want to try and give to you today. So let's head home. Let's start with home charging, and I'll see if I can start answering some of those questions. While I'm driving home, let's look at charge leads, because, well, every single car seems to have a different one, a different plug, a different adapter, a different charge rate. It makes no sense whatsoever. So let's look at the most common types and how they work. And I thought we'd start off with the Nissan Leaf, because it's got 2 of the most common types of chargers on it. And well, I'm sat in one, so I can show you for real what it looks like. When you lift the flap at the front of a Nissan Leaf, you'll see there's 2 different charging connectors, a very large one and a smaller one. Let's look at that smaller one first of all. Now, the plug that goes into here is commonly referred to as a Type 1 plug. You'll also hear people refer to it as a J1772, but from now on we'll just call it Type 1. This allows a slow charge. Now, a slow charge rate is anything up to 7 kilowatts. While we're talking about kilowatts, let me just explain very briefly the difference between the terms we use, kilowatts or kilowatt hours. Kilowatt hours is generally what we use to describe the size of the battery that's in the car. So this is a 24 kilowatt hour Nissan Leaf. That's the size of the battery. When we talk about kilowatts, we're talking about the speed that we can recharge it. So the charger speed itself. Next to this Type 1 plug, you'll see this very large, round, scary looking plug. Now, this is a CHAdeMO plug. This allows the car to connect to a rapid charger. So remember, we're talking anything over 22 kilowatts. And you'll see these at service stations. They're the big boxy chargers that you see that charge cars up very, very quickly. What other types of chargers are available? Well, there's a Type 2 charger. This allows between slow and fast charging. And quite often you'll see cars that have Type 2 chargers have a secondary plug just below it. It appears to be all part of the same thing. You can plug a Type 2 in and it will leave that bottom part free. That bottom part will allow you to plug in a much heftier charger. This charger is called a CCS, or combined charging system, which allows you to rapid charge, the same as the CHAdeMO. So you wouldn't put the Type 2 cable in, you'd put the CCS cable in, and then you can expect to see rapid charging speeds. And at this stage, I think the only other plug worth mentioning that is popular is a Tesla Type 2 plug. So it looks very much the same as any other Type 2 plug, but it allows much faster charging speeds, and it's a single plug allowing you to go from slow charging right up to rapid charging. So that's one end of the plug, but what about the other end, the end that attaches to the box or the machine that provides the power? Well, rapid chargers we'll look at separately in a bit, but as far as at home is concerned, you've effectively got two types of charger. You've got one that's tethered and one that's untethered. Now my charger is untethered, and with the majority of these untethered chargers, you'll find that the plug that it accepts is a Type 2, which means I have to buy a lead that will fit that Type 2. But the other end of the lead can be whatever you want it to be. So mine is Type 2 to Type 1. You might hear people refer to leads in that way. So the Type 2 end plugs into my wall box, and the Type 1 plugs into the front of my car. The reason I chose that was because, well, I wanted to future-proof myself. I didn't want to be stuck with the same lead attached to my charging box if I changed my car and then it was a different plug in it. I wanted to be able to just change the lead and update it as and when I went. So that's why I chose an untethered one. Obviously the downside to that is potentially it could get stolen, and I had to pay some extra for a separate lead to go into it. Now a tethered charger is exactly as it says. The lead is attached to the charger, you can't remove it, and it matches the car that you've got. The other thing you need to consider, as well as tethered or untethered, is what speed you want it to charge at. Now, when I got mine, I had a choice. I could have a 3.3 kilowatt charger, or what was referred to as a 7 kilowatt charger. Now that actually charges at 6.6 kilowatts, but at the time my car wouldn't accept any more than 3.3 kilowatts, which isn't a problem. It just adapts and changes to what it needs to be. But I chose a 7 kilowatt charger. And the reason for that was, again, to future-proof myself. Most cars that are sold now charge at a minimum rate of 6.6 kilowatts. So my charger will up its speed to whatever it's plugged into. So hopefully by doing what I've done, I future-proof myself, and any car I buy from here on in will adapt and fit that box. So far we've looked at the types of connectors and the types of home chargers that you can use. But if you want to get one of those home chargers installed in your own house, how do you go about doing it? Now, yes, a competent person that knows what they're doing, absolutely, they could install one of these charge points. But personally speaking, I would pay somebody to do it, because the amount of power that's drawn through it and the amount of things that potentially could go wrong, I'm not prepared to fiddle about with that sort of thing. I've moved plugs and things in my time, but this is, for me, a step too far. So I will pay a person to come and do something like that. Now, I was very fortunate that the package of when I bought my car from the dealer came with an install of a charge point. Now, my dealer employed a local company to come and do that. So I could have actually gone to them off my own back and got them to do the install myself. Now, when they came, they had a look around the house, they did a bit of a survey, they looked at the fuse box and the wiring, and basically they just made sure that when I plugged my car in for any prolonged period of time, things wouldn't start melting. So we were 100% sure that it would work without any problems and without causing any issues to my house. And in my case, it was a case of attaching to my current fuse box, taking a spur from there into a separate box, which from there the wire goes outside into the back of the charging unit. There's another fuse in there, and then I plug my untethered lead Type 2 connector into that charging unit and my Type 1 connector into the front of my car. And then my car charges at 3.3 kilowatts, as I explained before. So how long does it actually then take to put any meaningful charge back into my battery from one of these home chargers? Well, as a general rule of thumb, from a 3.3 kilowatt charger, you can expect about 15 miles for every hour it's plugged in. From a 7 kilowatt home charger, you can expect about 30 miles for every hour it's plugged in. Now, before we move on, there's just two other types of charger that I just want to touch on with you. The first is called a granny charger or a trickle charger, and it looks like this. And what you'll find is that on one end is a plug. Here in the UK, that's a domestic 3-pin plug that you'd find on any appliance. And on the other end is a Type 1 plug to go into the car. Now, it's pretty straightforward. It just plugs in both ends and it charges the car up. But it charges the car at a much slower rate. It's about 3 kilowatts. So for me, overnight, that will easily charge my 24 kilowatt hour Leaf. So that, I find, is just a really handy plug to have in the car. Now, it came with my car, and most cars, electric cars, will come with a version of that granny charger. I find it's handy when I go on holiday, if I go and stay in a cottage or an apartment, just to plug in where there's no other charge points available, and it allows me that flexibility to charge overnight rather than having to try and find a rapid charger the next morning before we all go out for the day. So a really handy plug to have. The other type of plug is a wall box called a Zappy charger. Now this is produced by a company called My Energy, and it comes in really handy if you have some sort of alternative energy source. So for example, you've got solar panels. When you use your solar panels and you try and charge your car from the solar panels, obviously the box that you're charging through on the wall isn't that intelligent. So it will take energy from the grid to mix with the energy from the solar, because unless you've got a solar farm, you're probably not going to have enough energy coming from that solar to put 3.3 kilowatts into your car. If you have, and it's a really good day, then brilliant. But generally, certainly here in the UK, that doesn't happen an awful lot. So this Zappy box will look at the variations in the energy coming from the solar, and it will eliminate, where it can, the energy coming from the grid. So it will trickle charge your car at the rate that the sun is shining on your solar panels. So it's completely free energy, and you won't be able to get that from any other boxes. So that's the one to go for if you've got solar panels and you want to charge during the day using just purely solar energy. Have a look at one of those. So that is home charging in a nutshell. From my point of view, the most important thing is get somebody in who knows what they're doing, because not only will they do that survey, they will fit and install it correctly, so you've got nothing to worry about, it'll all be certified, but also where the grants are available, they will be able to give you the paperwork, and in many cases fill it in on your behalf to ensure that you get those grants, so you're not having to pay full price for these boxes. If that's available to you, and if it is, it's fantastic. Well, that's it for now for home charging, and to be honest, I was going to now go on and start talking about public charging, but I've started editing the video, and I've got to be honest, I don't want to make it any longer than it already is. So, well, I said this at the start, this series can be an evolving series, so let's do this in episode 2 or 3 or 4 or wherever. We'll talk about public charging at another point. For now, hopefully that's given you a really good basis and an understanding of charging at home. And well, again, as I said at the start, please pop some comments in below. Let me know what whether that's answered the questions you need to know. Is there any more you need to know? Just whatever you need to know. It won't just come from me. There's such a great community on this channel of very, very knowledgeable people that you'll definitely get your answer. And failing that, you can find me on Twitter at EVOpinion and on Instagram, EVOpinion. Any of those places you can hopefully get the answers that you need. For now, thanks ever so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, follow the link to Patreon. That will tell you all about that. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video. And until the next one, you take care. I'll see you soon.